you can put a pretty little bow on Week 12 of the NFL season because that's a wrap.
Tucker, kick on the way. Does it have the distance? No!
The TPS experts took a step back this week, going 9-7 after Steelers' Monday night win. We were edged out by the fans who finished the week 10-6 and now are 2 games ahead of TPS in the season-long standings. This also means that one lucky TPSer is taking home some TPS bucks this week. The gravy train, however, stops right there because our lock of the week was stone cold, as per usual, and y'all missed out on the dog of the week pick. But, as they say, there's always next week, and week 13 is no exception. This week, we want to see some exact score predictions, and of course, your reasons why. And if you nail it, you can join this week's winner, CJ Starkey, who bought low on Mike White, predicting he'd throw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in a double-digit Jets win. Be sure to email us, CJ Starkey, to claim your prize. And just remember, if you want to enter for a chance to win prizes this week, make sure that you, number 1, are subscribed to our channel, number 2, like this video, number 3, comment below with an exact score prediction for one of this week's games and let us know why you chose it. And if the fans win any TPS bucks this week, we'll pick the winners based on your predictions. And to really keep the good times rolling, we're gonna add a couple of bonus incentives. That's right, we'll give away a $50 gift card if we get 2,000 comments and another $50 gift card if we reach 50,000 views. That right there is a possible $100 in bonuses, on top of the regular prizes that are available on a weekly basis. Now, without further ado, let's get into these games. Buffalo Bills at New England Patriots. First up, we have 2 teams that are duking it out in an uber-competitive AFC East, as the Buffalo Bills journey to Gillette to face Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. And the world thinks that even with the season on the line, New England comes up short. As far as we're concerned, New England's going to be the better bet here. Even in a losing effort, Mac Jones looked like the guy we saw make the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Knowing what is on the line and the travel gauntlet the Bills just went through, we're back in the Pats. Final score, New England 23, Buffalo 20. Green Bay Packers at Chicago Bears. Well, if you're looking for a game that doesn't matter in the slightest, Packers at Bears is the one for you. This week's Toilet Bowl is our first consensus pick of the week. Both the World and TPS think that Green Bay takes it, especially considering the combination of Rodgers' likely absence and what we saw from Jordan Love in relief last week. Love will be able to make the plays with his legs and his arm, and Christian Watson will be way too much for the porous Bears defense to handle. Tack on the fact that Justin Fields is likely to miss his 2nd consecutive game, and yeah, this one is a lock. Packers take it by a final score of 24-17. Pittsburgh Steelers at Atlanta Falcons. After last week's gut-wrenching loss to the Commanders, the Falcons desperately need to get back on track at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Fortunately for the good people of the ATL, the Bucs also lost last week. But nevertheless, this is still a big one for the Falcons. And you know, the TPSers believe in them. And as for our experts, not so much. To us, this seems like the exact point in the season where things start to completely unravel for the Falcons, if for no other reason than because, well, they're the Falcons. Steelers win a run-heavy potential snoozer of a game on the road, 20-13. New York Jets at Minnesota Vikings. Now, with Mike White at the helm, the new-look New York Jets head to Minnesota to square off with one of the top NFC contenders, the Vikings. The world likes many to move to 10-2, but after what we saw from the Jets' new signal color against an admittedly meager Bears defense last week, we're back in New York in this one. The Vikings still have just a +5-point differential, which at 8 games over 500 is pretty insane. I mean, New York's is over 30 points higher than that, and they have 2 more losses factored in. Minnesota's luck simply has to run out at some point, and White looks like the real deal. Tack on the fits that the Jets D should give Kirk Cousins, and New York takes this one by a final score of 20-14. Jacksonville Jaguars at Detroit Lions. Another year, another sad matchup between 2 of the league's long-struggling franchises is set to take place next week, as the Jaguars travel to Detroit to take on the Lions. Oddly enough, both teams are coming off rather impressive showings in Week 12. Jacksonville knocked off Baltimore, and Detroit went down to the wire with Buffalo. Both the TPS fans and experts, however, believe that it's Detroit that wins this showdown. Detroit has quietly been playing some really solid football after a miserable start to the season. And though we saw a Clemson-esque performance from Trevor Lawrence against the Ravens, those outings have been few and far between for him as a pro. Jacksonville rests on its meager laurels, and Dan Campbell rallies the Lions to a big win, 31-27. Tennessee Titans at Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles welcome Mike Vrabel's Titans to town for a showdown between two division leaders. The TPSers like the current leaders of the NFC East to win at home, which is a pretty safe bet considering they sit at 10-1, but our experts are going against the grain on this one and taking the Titans. The Eagles' defense has struggled lately, as evidenced by them surrendering 33 points to the lowly Packers last week. Look for the Titans to control the time of possession with King Henry and capitalize on a couple of key turnovers en route to a 28-20 victory. Cleveland Browns at Houston Texans. With their postseason dreams hanging on by a thread, the Browns are headed to Houston. And this just so happens to also mark Deshaun Watson's return to football. I see you NFL schedule makers. Anyway, both the TPS fans and experts like Cleveland in this one. Deshaun will obviously take some time to get up to speed as he hasn't played in 2 whole years, but this Houston team is bad, making this the perfect opportunity for Watson to shake off some rust. Cleveland pummels Houston 30-13. Washington Commanders at New York Giants. Talk about two teams heading in different directions. Washington is in the midst of a late-season surge that has drawn them within a half a game of the Giants, who, before their current 2-game skid, were sitting pretty. Now with their playoff berth starting to waver, the fans like the Giants to rally at home. But with the return of Chase Young and the quality football that Taylor Heineke is playing, yeah, we aren't sold. Commanders win a defensive battle by a final score of 14-10. Broncos at Ravens for our lock of the week. Unsurprisingly, the TPS fans and experts are aligned on this one. Both sides are backing the Ravens, including around 93% of the fans, even after their shocking loss to Jacksonville last week. But I mean, let's face it, the Broncos are a dumpster fire to the upteenth degree. And though the Ravens aren't a perfect team, they should have little trouble with a Broncos team that appears ready to have Russell Wilson walk the plank any day now. Denver's defense will show up as per usual, but Lamar will find a way to get some points on the board with all the chances afforded to them by the Broncos' lowly offense. Final prediction, Baltimore 17, Denver 7. Next up, it's the fans' dog of the week, the Dolphins, who are traveling to the West Coast to take on the San Francisco 49ers. The TPSers like Miami to put a nice bow on the clear renaissance that Mike McDaniel has led, all by securing a win over his old team. But the 49ers are playing some of the best football that we've seen all year. Between Deebo Samuel, a now healthy George Kittle, and mid-season acquisition Christian McCaffrey, there are more than enough playmakers in Kyle Shanahan's system to make up for any shortcomings that Jimmy G may have. Not to mention that their defense is flying all over the field. I know it was against a bad Saints team last week, but a shutout is a shutout. Miami's high-powered offense won't lay an egg, but it won't be enough as the defense breaks down in the second half, and the Niners win 33-24. Seattle Seahawks at Los Angeles Rams. At the beginning of the season, most people looking at the schedule would have predicted a blowout for the Seahawks at Rams. And many still are, only, the roles have been reversed. Seattle has had a stunningly solid season with Geno Smith at the helm, while the trains is now completely off the tracks for the reigning Super Bowl champs. Stafford is likely done for the year at this point, and neither Bryce Perkins nor John Wolford have proven to be a suitable replacement in their limited showings. Seattle probably isn't a real Super Bowl contender, but at 6-5, they are just one game back of the Niners in the NFC West, and are right in the thick of the wildcard race in a wide-open NFC. At this point, even LA's defense, which has been solid this year while only surrendering 178 points, will throw in the towel. Seattle takes this one 21-6. Los Angeles Chargers at Las Vegas Raiders. Ahead of the 2022 season, everyone and their mother put the AFC West on a pedestal. And while the Broncos have personified disappointment, the Chargers and Raiders, who square off in Vegas this week, have been rather underwhelming in their own right. At 6-5, the division is pretty much out of the question, but the Chargers are right on the bubble in a competitive AFC West wildcard race. That is, if they can find a way to beat a 4-7 Raiders team that is all but eliminated from postseason contention. And the TPSers seem to think they will. Nearly 90% of y'all, in fact. But the Raiders always seem to play the Chargers close, and Los Angeles notoriously finds new ways to lose close games on the regular. So look for Vegas to ride a battered but not broken Josh Jacobs all the way to a 28-27 victory that essentially ends the Chargers season. Kansas City Chiefs at Cincinnati Bengals. KC heads to Cincy for a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. The fans like the Chiefs to take it, and, we have to respect the pick considering how good Mahomes in that Chiefs offense has looked so far this year. But that doesn't mean that we have to take it too. Burrow lives for these kinds of games, and reports have begun to circulate that Jamar Chase may be returning to action. If that's the case, Cincy should have no problem scoring points in bunches. Of course, neither will Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and company. Look for a real barn burner in Cincinnati this week, with the Bengals edging out the Chiefs by a final score of 38-35. Indianapolis Colts at Dallas Cowboys. The Colts are headed to Jerry's World to face off with the Cowboys, who at 8-3 sit in second place in the NFC East, but have a rather easy schedule to close out the year and one head-to-head game with Philly remaining. Yeah, we have another consensus pick with Dallas here. Indy rallied nicely under the new Jeff Saturday regime, but the Cowboys completely outclassed them across the board. Micah Parsons will get to Matt Ryan early and often, as Dallas cruises to a 27-17 victory that isn't even as close as that score indicates. New Orleans at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last but not least, we have our Monday Night Football game for Week 13, Saints at Bucks. The TPSers apparently bought into the hype that Tampa Bay turned a corner, and are looking at last week's puzzling loss to the Browns as an aberration. Our experts, however, really aren't so sure. The Saints love to play spoiler to Brady, and a win this week would be doing exactly that, as it would knock Tampa Bay back into a tie for the lead of the NFC South with the idle Falcons. Andy Dalton game manages with the best of them, and that's all he'll have to do this week against a Bucs team that routinely shoots itself in the foot. Final prediction, New Orleans 16, Tampa Bay 10. Well, there you have it. 15 Week 13 games, 15 Week 13 predictions. How many will we get right? And before you go, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Then add your own prediction down below for a chance to win some awesome prizes. And be sure to vote on next week's games right now in our community section. Then tune in next week to see if you won.